And what I always talk about is, when does your mind want the pain to stop?
Mhm.
Now. And so if I
Exactly.
take that drug and it stopped the pain now, I solved the problem. But
Yeah.
now I'm building a code up that
Yeah.
this is the resource to stop the pain. And then we wonder why these people can't stop. So we shame them and think, well, we're going to shame them into changing that behavior
Yeah.
when that behavior was the thing that helped them. It's not a good
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
So the lady I told you about who had the thing with the guilt, the lady she had sent in was 7 years on heroin. And the first thing she did when she sat down with me, she said, I told my therapist I was coming in to see you, and he told me to make sure and be honest with you and tell you up front I have self-destructive behavior.
Mhm.
And so I smiled at her. I said, really? What would make you think you're self-destructive? And she looked at me like, well, I'm sticking a needle in my arm with heroin. You don't think that's self-destructive? I said, no, I think you're trying to feel better. And I
Yeah.
bet you when you stuck the needle in your arm, you felt better. She goes, well, yeah. I says, the substance is destructive, not you.
Yes, beautiful distinction. That is unfortunately what happens along the trail of addiction. It turns into this moral issue,
Mhm.
and it's not a moral issue. And people confuse themselves with the behavior and with the addiction. And just like you said, it solves the problem temporarily.
Yeah.
It- It's not a good person, bad person issue.
No. And I was at a conference and this guy said to me, he goes, well, they just really make bad choices. Don't you just write it off as bad choices? And I said, okay, let's talk about choices for a second. And he was wearing jeans and a blue t-shirt. And I said, did you choose to wear that t-shirt today? And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, tell me how you chose it. He says, well, I saw my jeans and I thought I'm going to wear my jeans. And I saw the blue t-shirt and I thought the blue t-shirt looks good with the jeans. I said, so you chose the blue t-shirt? And he
Mm.
goes, right. And I said, why didn't you choose the pink polka dot t-shirt? And he goes, well, I don't have a pink polka dot t-shirt. And I said, well, I still think you should have chosen it anyway. I'm going to judge you that you didn't choose what I thought you should have chose. And I
Exactly.
said, is that fair? And I said, so let me tell you how the addict is thinking. I have two t-shirts in my closet, a black one and a white one. If I wear the black one, I'm in pain. If I wear the white one, I'm not in pain. So they only have two t-shirts to choose from, and you want to judge them on it. Do I want to be in pain or not be in pain? They
Right.
can't see, they don't have the other t-shirts. They have two. And he goes, I never thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great metaphor as well, and so, so true. I mean, I do believe at the core, no matter how crazy it looks to someone else, everyone is doing the best they can to try to be on, a happier track. We know deep down we were here to experience life, and it should feel better than it does many times. And so people are just trying to reach for something that works, that gets them a result. And
Yeah.
they use whatever tools in the toolbox. And if all they have is a hammer, they're going to use the hammer until it doesn't work, or they're so beaten up by the hammer, they'll finally scream, somebody, do you have another tool? So every
Yeah.
drop of pain will get you closer to getting to the right track.
Yeah.
That,
It's the same thing too. I'll say to people, if you go to the dentist with a toothache
yeah,
and the dentist puts in a needle and numbs it and says, how does it feel? And you say, actually, it's pretty good. I don't feel the pain right now. Okay, perfect. Right. And then the next day you're back, say, my tooth's still aching. I'll give you more Novocaine. Are you going to keep going back to the dentist? You will, because
yeah,
they stopped the pain. They
yeah.
haven't fixed the problem, but you'll keep going back. And then we want to then look at you and say, well, you're not solving the problem. Keep going back to the drug dealer.
That's right. That's right. And that's why you see the trail of addiction in particular. It goes on and on and on until the drug turns on the person and it no longer gives the relief. It just becomes a nightmare. And unfortunately, it often takes a long time to crash and burn. You can't logic and reason with someone who's feeling better.
Right.
That's the only tool in their toolbox.
We have to start taking the shame and guilt out of it. And that's what I do. And so when I work with people, I had a young lady in and we took her through our program. And at the end of it, I said, so here's the new language I want you to use. I said, if somebody says to you, I understand you're an addict, you
Mhm,
say, I experience symptoms of addiction.
mhm.
However, I've recovered. You're not in recovery anymore. You recovered. And I said, because you don't have to white knuckle this every day. When you've resolved it and you've now updated the code,
Yeah.
right? You've updated the code. Why would you have to continue to feel like you have to fight this every day? You
Yeah.
don't. You resolved the trauma, which was the source and the code, and then you built a code to solve the pain.
I have a unique way of working in the energy field, which is does exactly the same as you're describing. It actually literally removes the root cause and energetically balances the field. And the field is what informs the body. And I've worked with heroin addicts and other addicts and seen them just clean up overnight. And people say, well, that's impossible. It has to take a long time and it has to be, this horrible, hard journey. But it's exactly what you just said. When you remove the root and it is gone, it is out of your field, it ceases to exist. And so the
Right.
problem ceases to exist.